Hi, welcome to Rules Challenge. My name's Carter Maxwell, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at the game Revive. Now, in case you happen to be new to the show, the way this works is you'll just be basically watching me play through a regular game, but I break it up into numbered sections, and at the end of each section I'll just ask legal or illegal. And it's your job to figure out if what you saw done in the preceding turn was correct. Before we start the challenge, I usually like to make some suggestions to new players, and I actually have a few for this game. First off, I would definitely recommend that you use these action cubes to keep track of your moves. That's the kind of thing that the rule book suggests, but most people typically ignore. But I think they're really useful in this case. I've watched games where regularly people lose track of whose turn it is. They'll start to take a move, and then the person before them will say, well, hang on, I'm not done yet. So you'll see me use these at least for the first turn or two, where you finish an action, pass the cube to the next player, and then when you finish your second action and you're completely done with your turn, pass the next cube to that player. When they have both the cubes in front of them, then they know it's their turn to go. Another thing is, I would immediately give up using the terms small location and large location that the rule book uses to describe places where you can populate and put your meeples. That just confuses people. I was watching a playthrough on Paul Grogan's channel, Gaming Rules, and I noticed in there they referred to the small locations as abandoned cities. And I like that. It makes sense. There's a picture of what looks like a lifeless city on the hex. Abandoned cities is the perfect term, and that's way easier for people to keep track of than just the generic term small location. That seems like it could refer to just about anything. Another thing is, don't overlook that there are hints on the back of these tiles as to what you'll find on the other side when you explore it. If it doesn't show any kind of space there, there's just going to be two terrain hexes on it. Some of them will show an abandoned city, so you'll find an abandoned city on the other side, and some of them will show a lake, so you'll find a lake on the other side of the tile. It took me a long time to pick up on that, and I was getting frustrated that I couldn't find a tile to populate onto, and I finally realized it's telling me right on the back where I'll find one. Another thing is, I sometimes see people ask about how to mark their score when they've passed 50 points and they're going down the scoring track a second time, because a lot of games will have like a little 50-point token or 100-point token. This game doesn't have any of those, but the thing that I find convenient is just to use one of these little blue discs over on your progress track on the left side of your player board. The only one you really need there is the one you've most recently taken to show what your endgame score will be. The ones at the bottom aren't necessary anymore, so if you pass 50 points, just grab one of these and put it with your scoring pawn. And then the last thing I want to mention is, and I got to be careful here because it does relate to the campaign, but if you plan on playing the campaign right away, great, go for it. If not, I would at least recommend that you look into it enough to see what's going to change with the switch on your player board, because it's pretty boring in the base version of the game. It doesn't do a whole lot. It gets a lot better after you play through the campaign. So if you don't intend to play through the campaign at all, at least find out the advanced actions you can take with that, because it does make the game more interesting. And you wouldn't want to play the game permanently in just the base version of the rules. Okay, that's it for the suggestions. Now I think we're ready to get started on the rules challenge. All right, it's Blue's turn. So we'll start things off with them. I actually have no idea how to pronounce a couple of these faction names, so I'm just going to stick to referring to the player colors. Before Blue takes a regular action, he wants to start things off by using a free action to activate this machine here. That will give him 1 food and 1 victory point. So we'll move an energy marker there and move up 1 on the food tracker. And we'll give Blue 1 point. Now Blue is going to take an action and he'll play a card. He'll play this gray one and tuck it under this bottom slot and gain 1 crystal, and there's no module in that slot, so that'll be it. And his crystal tracker is already maxed out, so instead of gaining a crystal, he'll take it as 1 gear. That completes that action, so he'll pass an action marker to the next player. People often wonder if you can even take a crystal when your tracker is already maxed out. But the rules do explicitly address this situation. When you gain a crystal and the crystal tracker's at the top space, simply take it as another resource. For his second action, Blue wants to build in this sand space here, and there's just 1 intervening space, so the range will be 1. So first he'll pay for that range with 1 food, and then a small building costs 3 gears. He actually only has 1, so he'll spend 1 gear and 2 crystals. He'll place the building, and it looks like he'll get to move up 1 step on the green machine tracker and 2 steps on the yellow. So we'll move the 1 step on green, and that doesn't unlock anything new, and 2 steps on yellow. And that doesn't unlock anything new. And since he had already gained this water space bonus when he placed this building, he won't gain a bonus now. That ends Blue's second action, and so he'll pass the second action cube, and that'll end his turn. This turn provided a reminder that you're not limited in how many times you can make use of a terrain hex to advance on a machine track. The rules are clear that you can only gain the benefit of a water space bonus once, but that doesn't apply to the terrain spaces. So even though earlier Blue had built next to this forest space and advanced on the machine track for that, it was fine that he did it again when placing this building. Now Yellow's up, and she's going to play a card. She's going to play a card that will give her 1 resource for every red beaker she has. Hopefully these icons aren't too small for you to see. She has 2 on this machine, 3rd one here, 4th one here, and a 5th one on the card. And she's going to take those all as books, so that'll move her from 1 to 6. That finishes that action, and normally she would then pass the action cube to the next player, but you get the idea. I'm not going to bother showing that during the rest of the video. The part of this turn that might cause some concern is that Yellow took 5 resources for red flasks with this card. People will often look at that and think that's incorrect, that she should have gotten 4. 2, 3, 4, and that's it. But you actually do get to count the red beaker on the card itself toward collecting those resources. And I've seen the designer confirm that interpretation on the Board Game Geek forums. For her second action, Yellow wants to put a large building in this sand space here, and that will be a range of 2. She's unlocked the technology that says she may spend books instead of food or gears when paying costs. So she'll pay that range of 2 with 1 food and 1 book. Then she needs to pay the 5 gears for the large building, and she'll split those costs again. She'll pay 2 of them with gears, and then the remaining 3 with books. 1, 2, 3. Then she'll place that large building, and she'll take double rewards for the adjacent terrain. So she'll move up 2 steps on the green machine track and 2 steps on the gray machine track. She'll move up 2 on the gray track, 1, 2, and that won't unlock anything new. And 2 on the green track, 1, 2. And that will unlock this one because the yellow marker has already passed this space as well. So we'll move that over here. And now she can gain a new green machine token. And she'll take this one here. That will give her yet another red beaker and the ability to gain a slot module. And she'll refill the display right away. And she'll put that into its space. Finally, she needs to gain the bonus for that water space, so she'll gain 3 victory points. 1, 2, 3. And she passed this crate icon, so then she'll gain a crate for that. And that'll end her turn. Yellow did everything correctly on this turn. I did want to say one more thing about the water bonuses though. Now in question number 1, I had talked about how if you have already taken the water bonus for one building, and then if you place a second one there, you don't get the water bonus a second time. Now this situation is a little different. Instead of placing a second building, it's a large building that will often give you a double bonus. But again, that doesn't apply to the water space. Even though yellow was able to take a double forest bonus and a double mountain bonus, she only could take the 3 victory points from the water space once. By the way, while I'm thinking about it, I don't have an example that deals with this, but I should talk about the crystals along the edge of the map. Those don't work like water. They're more like the terrain spaces in that if you build a small building next to them, you get 1 crystal, and if you build a large building next to them, you get 2 crystals. Alright, moving on to Purple's turn. He wants to build a small building in this sand space here, and most of his buildings are far away, but it is right next to the chasm, so he'll pay 0 range for that. The building itself will cost 3 gears, so he'll pay those. And he'll place the small building. He's next to 2 forest spaces and 1 mountain space. So I'll move up 2 steps on the green machine track, which unlocks nothing, and 1 on the gray track, which unlocks nothing. Purple made a mistake in calculating the range for building this building. Remember that you only get to use the chasm as the starting point for calculating range early in the game when you don't have any buildings or meeples out on the map yet. Once you have pieces out here, you can no longer use the chasm and you have to calculate it from your nearest piece. So to reach this space, Purple should have calculated from this small building here, which would have made it a range of 2. For his second action, Purple wants to populate. He wants to put a meeple on this sand space next to this large yellow building. And there's 2 intervening spaces, so the range will be 2. So he'll pay 2 food for the range. 1, 2. He's still at the lowest technology level, so that'll cost him just 2 books. He'll pay those. 1, 2. And he'll place his meeple. The error Purple made this time was in populating a sand space. And this is actually a fairly common mistake because even though most people are aware that they can only populate a location, there's a lot of confusion about what exactly a location space is. And the designers have even expressed some regret online about using kind of that generic term of small location or large location. I'm going to do my best to try to help clear up any confusion. There are 2 types of locations you can populate into. One is these single hex abandoned cities like I talked about during the intro. And the other is these 5 hex corner scoring spaces. You can put your meeples into either of those 2 types and that's it. Well, Purple didn't manage to take a legal action on his turn. Let's see if Green can do any better. Green wants to explore this tile here, so the range will be 1, and then to explore the tile, that'll be 3 food. To pay for the range, he's going to move an energy to his range +1 machine. Then for the explore action, he'll pay 3 food. Exploring that tile is worth 2 victory points. And green will flip that tile and gets to arrange it however she wants. So she'll put it like this. The mistake green made was that she forgot to take a citizen card. For some reason, this is a super common mistake. People tend to do the same thing every time. They calculate the range, and they pay that. They look at how much the tile costs, they pay that. They grab their victory points, and then they get excited about flipping it over and figuring out how to arrange that to their advantage. Don't forget to take the citizen card, though, that comes with it. That's a huge part of the benefit of taking this action. Okay, now green wants to populate this abandoned city she just exposed, and that'll be a range of 1. She still has her energy marker in place on this range +1 machine, so she's not going to pay anything for range. Then she wants to use this machine that gives her a 2-book discount for populate actions, so she'll move an energy marker there. She wants to use this meeple here from the top tier of her tribe board. So that'll cost her, well, normally 4 books, but she'll get a discount of 2, so it'll cost her a total of 2 books. She's coming up a bit short on books, so she'll pay 1 and then 1 crystal. And she'll place the meeple. And now she needs to gain the benefit of placing that meeple, which is 1 major artifact and 1 energy marker. So she'll put a new energy marker in the middle of her board, and she'll take another gray artifact. A question I've heard quite a few times is, if you put an energy marker on a range +1 machine, do you get that effect or that benefit as long as that energy marker remains on the machine? And the answer is no. It only affects the action you take immediately after activating that machine. Green had used that machine to pay for range on her first action of her turn, so she did not get to use it again to pay for range on her second action. A similar question comes up on a lot of different machines. Now let's just take this one for an example. So green had placed an energy marker there to get a 2-book discount for a populate action. So she might think, hey, as long as that energy marker's in place, I can keep taking populate actions, keep getting a 2-book discount. But that's not the case. When you place the energy, you get an immediate discount on a populate action, but to get a subsequent discount, you would have to clear the energy marker from that machine and place a new one out there. Usually that would mean taking a hibernate action to clear it, but there are other effects in the game that allow you to clear energy from a machine. Now it's Blue's turn, and before taking a main action, he's going to take a free action and move an energy marker up to this space here with showing a major artifact. And then he'll take a major artifact, this time a purple one. Then for his first regular action, he wants to play this card here. So he'll put it into this slot, and that will give him 1 food and 1 book, and it'll activate this module for another book. So we'll mark the 2 books and the 1 food. Blue made a mistake that I have to admit to making the first time I played the game, and that's treating these hexes as machines when you unlock them. And it completely breaks the game, so you don't want to do that. They're not machines, they're just bonus spaces. Now the nice thing is, because they're not machines, you don't have to move an energy marker there to activate them. It's just when you unlock the space, you get a major artifact. But that also means it's just a one-time bonus. You can't later move an energy marker up there and gain an additional major artifact. For a second action, Blue wants to populate this abandoned city here, and it looks like there's 1 hex between there and his nearest piece. So he'll pay 1 food for that range of 1. He wants to use the second tier meeple And there was no other meeple yet on that space, so it'll just cost 3 books. So he'll pay that. 1, 2, 3. And he'll place the meeple. That technology he just unlocked says, once, move one of your meeples to any other abandoned city. So he's going to use this meeple that he had placed earlier next to the chasm and move that up to this space up with the green meeple. And that will end his turn. In these videos, I usually try to focus on general rules that affect everybody. But even though this one just affects whoever's playing this faction, it causes enough confusion I thought it was worth talking about. So let's just walk through the steps real quick. First off, you pay for the meeple just like you would any other populate action. You pay for the range, you pay the books for the technology, and you pay extra books if there's any opposing meeples already in the space. And just like normal, it can go into either an abandoned city or one of the large corner scoring locations. Then, once you've placed the meeple according to the normal populate rules, you activate the effect of that technology. So you choose one of your meeples in an abandoned city, not a corner scoring tile. Only the abandoned cities are eligible. So blue had 2 options, and you move that meeple to another abandoned city. Again, it can't be one of the corner locations. You don't pay any cost for that move. You don't pay range, and you don't pay a penalty if there's already an opponent's meeple there. Probably the most important thing to be aware of with this action when you're planning the moves for your turn is that you cannot use it to get into a corner scoring location. So don't plan on holding back on this technology till right at the end of the game and jumping into a scoring location that you need. It can be very helpful for getting closer to one, but it won't get you all the way there. Okay, yellow didn't really do anything new or interesting on her turn, so I'm just going to skip right over her directly to purple. And before purple does anything else, he wants to open a crate. So he'll flip that over, and that'll give him 1 victory point. So I'll mark that. And it also allows him to return 1 energy marker to the center of his player board. And he'll move this one here. Now he wants to take a free action, and he wants to activate this machine here that will allow him to move a card directly from his active area to his rest area and gain the top effect on the card. And I just noticed there's 2 little check marks at the top of the card to remind you that it has to be the top effect, not the bottom effect. So he'll move his energy marker. Then he'll gain the top effects on the card, which is 1 gear and 1 book. He'll mark those on their tracks, 1 gear, 1 book, and then he'll move the card directly to the rest area. Now purple wants to hibernate, so we'll run through those steps. First, he'll move the cards from his rest area back into the active area. Then we'll move the cards from the slots into the rest area. Then we'll move all the energy markers back to the middle. We'll reset the switch. And we'll move his pawn up the hibernation track. Now he can take a bonus of either a point and a crystal or a slot module, and he'll go with the slot module. He'll take this one for 2 food from the display and refill it immediately. He wants to get those 2 food right away, and he does still have a slot with an unused green check mark, so he'll put it in there and gain an immediate 2 food. There were a lot of things on this turn that looked illegal, so don't feel bad if you got it wrong. The main thing that made it tough was simply that purple did so much stuff on his turn. He was activating machines, he was gaining effects from cards. But keep in mind, as long as you're only taking free actions and not your regular actions, you can still hibernate on your turn. The other thing that might have looked weird on Purple's turn is that he put a slot module in that right slot that he hadn't even unlocked yet, the ability to place a card there. But it's perfectly legal to go ahead and put a slot module there and even gain the immediate benefit if you're covering a check mark. But it is somewhat of a risky move in that if you never manage to get that technology unlocked, you'll never gain the use of that slot module again. Well, that looks like a good place to wrap things up. Hopefully you got something useful out of the video. As usual, if you think I got something wrong or just have a question, don't hesitate to leave a comment. Again, this has been Rules Challenge. I'm Carter Maxwell, and I hope to see you again soon.